Mr. Speaker, the VAT Act allows taxpayers making both taxable and hence loss of government revenue. Support of the government's effort to combat malaria parents. Mr. Speaker, tax expenditure in Kenya is about 2.9% of GDP for the year 2022. Of this amount, VAT tax expenditure amounted to 248.3 billion, or what is 63.1% of the total estimate of tax expenditure, which is a large erosion of the VAT tax base. Mr. Speaker, tax expenditure create avenues for revenue leakage and thus denying government the revenue to support key priorities that benefit majority of Kenyans, of the citizens in Kenya. Recognizing the importance of tax expenditure in the promotion of investment and addressing welfare challenges in the economy, and in line with the medium-term revenue strategy, I propose to rationalize the VAT tax expenditure as provided for in the VAT Act in form of exemptions and zero rating based on the following criteria. First, that goods currently exempt be subjected to VAT. Second, zero-rated finished goods and consumer goods and services be exempt from VAT. Third, zero rating be restricted to goods and taxable services meant for export. Based on the above, Mr. Speaker, criteria, Mr. Speaker, I have proposed several amendments to the first schedule of the VAT Act in order to move some goods and services from exempt to VAT status. In addition, I have also proposed amendments to the second schedule of the VAT Act so that we can move some of the goods and services from zero rating to either exempt status or VATable. This rationalization is expected to expand the VAT tax base and create fairness in taxation. Let me turn now to amendments in the Excise Duty Act. Mr. Speaker, the tax measures I have proposed under excise duty, I propose to change as follows. I propose to change the due date of payment of excise duty on alcoholic beverages from 24 hours within 5 working days. After removal from the stockroom, the 24 hours time frame has posed administrative challenges and cash flow, as well as cash flow challenges to the taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, to protect local assemblies and create fairness and equity in taxation, I propose an introduction of excise duty on imported fully built motorcycle at the rate of 10% of the customs value, in addition to specific tax duty rate of Kenya shillings 12,952.83 per unit, whichever is higher. Mr. Speaker, participation in betting, gaming, prize competition, lotteries continues to affect socio-economic fabric of our society, given their addictive nature. Mr. Speaker, last year we raised the excise duty on these activities from 7.5% to 12.5% to discourage participation. Despite this increase, participation rate in these activities by Kenyan citizens, especially school-going children and young adults, continues to persist. To further discourage this behavior, I propose to increase the excise duty tax rates to 20%. Mr. Speaker, in line with research findings commissioned by the National Treasury on the taxation of alcoholic beverages, I propose to review the excise duty structure on wines and beer from specific rates per litre to the rate of Kenya shillings 22 shillings and 50 cents per centiliter of pure alcohol. In other words, we want to start taxing alcohol beverages on the basis of alcohol content. Further, I propose to change excise duty rate on spirits from specific rates per litre to Kenya shillings 16 per centiliter of pure alcohol. This new structure of taxation based on alcoholic content does not distort the markets, and does not affect the investment decision, and it is expected to encourage responsible consumption behavior of these alcoholic beverages. Mr. Speaker, I also propose to review excise duty structure on cigarettes in line with research conducted and advice that has recommended harmonization of excise duty rates for cigarettes with and without filters at the rate of Kenya shillings 4,100 per mile. This will reduce the incentive for misdeclaration and illicit trade. Mr. Speaker, I propose to increase the excise duty rate from Kenya shillings 1,594.50 per kilogram to Kenya shillings 2,000 per kilogram on products containing nicotine or nicotine substitute to address their adverse effects on human health. This excludes those approved medicinal products. Additionally, I propose to increase the excise duty rate on liquid nicotine for electronic cigarettes from Kenya shillings 70 per milliliter to Kenya shillings 100 per milliliter. Mr. Speaker, to provide fair treatment to both residents and non-residents offering excisable services, I propose to amend the Excise Duty Act to charge excisable services offered in Kenya by non-residents through a digital platform. Mr. Speaker, the Finance Act introduced excise duty on fees charged on advertisement of alcoholic beverages, betting, gaming, lotteries, and prize competition on TVs, print media, billboards, and FM stations. This resulted to a shift in choice of advertisement platform from the traditional media to internet and social media. To create a level playing field and to achieve the intended purpose, I propose to expand the scope of this tax to include fees charged on internet and social media advertisements. Mr. Speaker, in order to enhance the administrative efficiency in the issuance of excise licenses to persons dealing with excisable goods or services, I have proposed an amendment to provide for issuance of licenses within 14 working days upon receipt of all required valid documents by the Commission. Mr. Speaker, the Finance Act 2023 introduced duty on imported eggs, potatoes, onions at the rate of 25%. To promote trade across East African region, I propose the removal of this excise duty on imported eggs, potatoes, and onions originating from East African Community Partner States, subject to goods meeting the East African Community Rules of Origin. Mr. Speaker, currently, excise duty is 15% on the following: telephone, internet data services, fees charged on money transfer services by banks, fees charged on money transfer by agencies and other financial services providers, and the fees charged on cellular phone service providers. I propose to retain the excise duty rate of 15% on fees charged on money transfer services by cellular phone service providers to benefit retail electronic payments ecosystem. Let me now move to amendments to Tax Procedures Act. Mr. Speaker, I will now highlight those proposed amendments of the Tax Procedures Act. Currently, there is no validity period for the agency notices issued for enforcement of correction of unpaid taxes. This gap often leads to tax disputes and delayed revenue correction. To address this, I propose to amend the Tax Procedures Act to provide 1 year validity period for agency notices. Mr. Speaker, in order to align the timelines for claiming VAT and in the Tax Procedures Act, in the preceding year, in the preceding 3 years is at least 3 million are exempted from withholding tax. In order to promote equity and create, I propose to amend the Tax Procedures Act to clarify that enforcement and correction of taxes will be undertaken where a decision of the tribunal or court is in favor of the commissioner. Documents submitted by the taxpayers in support of an objection of tax. And in order to give the commissioner adequate time, I propose to object decisions of the commissioner from 60 days to 90 days. An investment promotion levy was introduced on imported goods. 4, the list of goods has been expanded and the rate of the levy has been reduced to 3% for most of the propose to introduce eco levy on various products to be payable in line and Levies Act. Let me turn to the amendments to the Kenya Revenue Authority Act. Mr. Speaker, to enhance public knowledge and literacy on tax matters, I propose to amend the Kenya Revenue Act to enable Kenya School of Revenue Administration collaborate with other matters. I've submitted this amendment. The government, under the leadership of His Excellency, the President Kabri, the economy has recovered from the lagged effects of COVID-19 shocks that created some permanent effects. Mr. Speaker, the policies sustained socio-economic transformation. Financing development is critical to this economic transition and growth. I'm confident that these measures will create jobs. They will strengthen economic recovery, and they will reduce the cost of living in the country, thereby providing the much-needed relief to the common mwananchi. I therefore urge honorable members and all Kenyans to support the implementation of the measures contained in this budget for our mutual prosperity. Finally, Mr. Speaker, achieving prosperous Kenya requires leadership and support of every Kenyan. For this reason, I wish to thank His Excellency the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and His Excellency the Deputy President, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, for their continued wise guidance and leadership and even perseverance to long hours of working to get things right. My special appreciation goes to Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Attorney General, my fellow Cabinet Secretaries, and the respective Principal Secretaries and accounting officers and staff of all MDAs for their support and contribution to the financial year 2024-2025 budget making process and contributions to these budget proposals. My sincere appreciation also goes first to you, Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, and your counterpart in the Senate, the majority and minority leaders of the entire House leadership, including respective clerks, for overseeing the approval process of the budget estimates for the financial year 2024-2025 and related documents. Second, to honorable chairs, members of both Budget and Appropriation Committee and Finance and National Planning Committee, and all the other departmental committees of this House, as well as of the staff of the Parliamentary Budget Office, for their constructive input, excellent leadership during the approval process and the discussions that we have had in the process of these budget proposals. Third, let me thank my colleagues, the National Treasury and Economic Planning, led by Dr. Chris Kipto, the Principal Secretary and the National Treasury, and James Mohati, the Principal Secretary of State Department of Economic Planning, for their commitment, dedication, and support in the preparation of this budget process, including their own leadership in their own MDAs. Fourth, I want to thank the management and staff of the Central Bank of Kenya, Kenya Revenue Authority, financial sector regulators, and other MDAs for their contributions and advice during this budget process. My gratitude also goes to the multilateral and bilateral development partners for their continued technical and financial support. And further, I thank the private sector for its sustained contribution to the discussions we have had to support the growth of our economy. Sixth, I wish to appreciate the media and non-state actors for their active engagement and even participation in the 2024-2025 budget process. Mr. Speaker, I remain immensely grateful to my family and their support and inspiration as I execute my duties at the National Treasury and Economic Planning, which is not an easy task, I can tell you. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, my utmost gratitude goes to all Kenyans for their contributions, proposals, and suggestions received during the finalization of the budget proposals. The outcome of these measures are to our own benefits and a reward to perseverance on the difficulties that we have gone through and to solve the difficulties ahead of us. Thank you, and may God bless you. Mr. Speaker, before I resume my seat, you recall that I have already submitted to this House the budget estimates and the Finance Bill 2024 together with the accompanying documents as required by the Public Finance Management Act 2012. Today, I further submit the following documents to this august House, and I request that you graciously receive them. First, the budget statements for the financial year 2024-25. Second, the 2024 budget policy statement. Third, estimates of revenue, grants, and loans for the financial year 2024-2025 budget. Fourth, financial statements for the financial year 2024-2025 budget. Fifth, medium-term debt management strategy 2024. Sixth, budget highlights, the Mwananchi Guide, the financial year 2024-2025 budget. And finally, statistical annex of the budget statements for the financial year 2024-2025. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move.
Thank you, Minister.